let's talk about gear. We do not have a lot of extra space in here to carry a ton of extra gear, so I don't have, you know, a spare alternator and a spare starter motor and a spare CV joint and all that sort of stuff that serious four-wheel drivers, especially ones in convoy, will have with them. I need to clarify one thing, talking about gear. I have 0 sponsors on this new channel. Back when I was the remote riverman trekking around with a backpack on overseas and things, I had I think I only had 3 sponsors. I had Sea to Summit, a company in WA that makes some nice gear. I had a satellite phone guy, and I had a guy who gave me a very nice yellow kayak that I took to Paraguay, Argentina, and Canada. But I don't have any sponsors anymore, and that's on purpose. I don't want to get into the whole thing about sponsorships and brand partnerships and the slippery slope of modern YouTubers because, yeah, let people do their thing and I'll do my thing. But you will see a lot of YouTube videos where people will put a little sign up in the top corner of their video saying includes paid promotion. That's all well and good, but they can often be quite vague about which exact bit of gear has been paid for and which has not. What are they spruiking because they love it and paid their own money for it, and what are they spruiking because someone paid them money to spruik it? Somebody did a survey of YouTubers and found that a very large percentage, way over half, can be a little bit slack in being upfront about their sponsorship. I know there are people out there who have sponsors and are very fastidious about exactly what is sponsored and what is not. The reason I do not want sponsors on this channel, and the reason I have no sponsors on this channel, is a positive, proactive decision to maintain the trust and integrity of this channel. It is a very slippery slope when you start getting people contacting you and wanting to give you free stuff, and we'll do this for you if you show this brand name 14 times during the course of your video. It gets to the point where videos that you used to watch because they had lots of wonderful content and were really interesting become 38% commercials. I guess the bottom line is, if you see me talking about any particular bit of gear on the new Remote Riverman Australia channel, you can be assured that I, and or probably my wife, have paid for it with our own money, and we use it because we've researched the heck out of it and decided it's the best thing for us. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. My toolkit is fairly basic. A hammer and a large flathead screwdriver. Ideal for bashing things into submission, but also very nice combo for getting oysters off rocks. I do not have a chainsaw. That works really well and it takes up hardly any room. Doesn't weigh anything. It's great. Chisel, smaller saw as well. Get a jet boil. That's what the canisters look like, and then it just goes up there. You've seen what a jet boil is. But a jet boil is very handy if you just want a quick cup of tea in a hurry. Not only an excellent theft deterrent, but it's very handy for chopping. Multi-grips. Roll-up toolkit. A little electrical light tester. When you get your collection of zip ties for your vehicle, get some stainless steel ones as well. It's just a little roll-up thing. Does the job. You'll find with every vehicle there's a certain sizes that you use a lot of. With the Toyotas, I think 12s and 13s and 19s. A drill and some bits that will cover you for most things that you need to do. There are occasions where you will need to put extra tie downs around your awnings or whatever. These things are quite good, so you can use your drill to drill them into the ground. Breaker bar with the appropriate fitting on the end. Get a serious one, so if you do need to get your wheel nuts loosened up, you're not going to have any issues. Get a proper torque wrench. That's a Tool Pro, so you can torque down the appropriate tightness of your wheels, because you don't want to have wheel nuts coming off halfway through your trip and the wheel just rolls down the road without you. Screwdrivers, heavy duty box cutter, adjustable wrench. You're getting the picture. There's nothing like super new and exciting here. One of those guys. A pry bar, Loctite. Sometimes you want the bolts or the screws or whatever you're tightening down to stay tight. Super glue. Hose clamps, different sizes. I have a shovel in behind my seat up the front. Full-size shovel that packs down into a small space. Quite a lot of stuff that you get into trouble with, you can get out of that trouble with a shovel. This idea that the first line of defense in a bog situation is a snatch strap is not true. It's like the last thing you should go for. I don't own a snatch strap. I own a kinetic rope because they're gentler on the vehicle, they're more efficient, they last longer, there's all sorts of pluses. So a kinetic rope looks like that. It's basically a stretchy rope that is a substitute for a snatch strap. As I said before, it doesn't yank your vehicle with quite the same degree of force. It's a gentler pull. I didn't bring it with me on this trip, but I do own also a winch extension strap, which is basically like the kinetic rope strap. Looks very much like it, but it does not stretch. So you don't want to get those two mixed up because they perform two completely different functions. The soft shackle, one of the finest inventions of the modern 21st century. I am telling you. Provided you have the proper connection to go with this, soft shackle all the way, every time. There is a move away from bow shackles and toward soft shackles now. A tree protector strap. No excuse not to use one. Gotta look after our trees. Snatch blocks. Don't really need them. Get one of those. Weighs about 1/10 as much. And it does pretty much the same job. Not in every single situation, but I find a lot of situations I get my soft shackles and one of these, and that's all you need, folks. It rocks my world. The little rings. It's so much lighter, man. That weighs nothing. Like a snatch block, it's like, alright, crikey mine. I'm not going to drag them indoors here because they're rather large, but I do have 4 max tracks that go with this vehicle. A couple on top that are locked in place, and a couple that live in the back tunnel boot. The ones in the tunnel boot are in a protective bag. You can actually buy a Max Trax bag that is a handy thing, because if you get your Max Trax in the mud and they're all covered in gunk and you don't want to make the inside of your vehicle look ratty, you can shove them into the bag and clean them later. Grab yourself one of these. Your hitch pin goes through there, that goes in the back of your vehicle, and then you got your soft shackle coming out of there. You can use bow shackles as well. The whole point of off-roading is to not get yourself in situations where you need all this gear in the first place. Get yourself something where you can lower your tire pressures fairly quickly. This is just a iCheck TPMS. You whack those on, you set the pressure to what you want, and it takes the air out of your tires. Any inflation system will overheat and conk out on you, and you have to wait a while if you make it work too hard. But this thing's been working great. It's really good, really good. Get rid of the 2 little battery clamps that were on the end of this and put a proper Anderson plug on there instead. Just easier for me, so then I can plug it into that little thing in the back of the vehicle. So easy. If you want both of your front tires or both of your back tires to be exactly the same pressure as each other, then you just pump them both up at the same time, and it's got the little gauge and all of that. Now, when it comes to torches, we have a headlamp each, and then we got 3 of these guys. These are made by, I think, Nebo is the company that makes these. Really good quality. This formidable creature here is 12,000 lumens. So if you want to go spotlighting at night for creatures and look up in trees, it's really amazing. One of the best investments we have made with this vehicle is buying this thing. This is a Breezeway portable fan that plugs into a 12-volt cigarette lighter socket. This thing has 3 speeds, it hardly uses any electricity, and particularly my wife Kathy, she gets warm a lot easier than I do. I hate the cold, she hates the heat. So when it gets super hot, this thing, it's worth its weight in gold. It was like $69, I think we bought it online. If you are sending water into your vehicle, you want to filter it, because who knows what's happening out there in the world of water quality, which is called Best Filter. That's the company that makes it. And a little bit like that you can plug into your side of your vehicle and fill up quite easily. It actually has an on and off tap here as well. This thing, basically you pull the hose out and you attach it to your tap, and then the other end here attaches onto that. And in here you just roll that out, boom, done. That's a handy thing to have. If you come upon a tap that doesn't have an actual handle on it, that has different sizes, and you can actually use that as a handle. But this guy, that's the critter you want. That fellow attaches to probably 90% of the taps in Australia. The reason I like this is because it doesn't take forever to pack it up. It's instantaneous pretty much, and when you got a queue of 7 caravans behind you waiting to get water, they appreciate that. The other thing about the flat out hoses is that it is proper food grade hose. And some things that call themselves food grade are not terribly awesome. You may find after a little bit of use you start to grow algae inside them, because they're not really high quality food grade, they're low quality food grade. There is a difference. There are certain Australian standards that the flat out hose meets that some other hoses do not. Once again, I have no affiliation with anybody. I just love these guys because the hoses work, they're easy to use, they're easy to store, they're flat, they're not all tangled up. It's an Australian company. Support them. Speaking of water, get one of these. A collapsible bucket. I just love doing that. Spare row rings. Fuel tank repair, silicone sealant, and you know the rule: if you cannot repair it with duct tape, it is simply not repairable. Do not get the cheap gray thin duct tape. Get the cloth Gorilla tape type stuff, the good stuff. These are Rhino Rack straps. This is quite handy if you got to tie something together to hold it together till you can get to the next town and get a mechanic to look at what's falling apart. Two-sided tape, normal tape, electrician's tape, plumber's tape. Self-sealing tape is really good for hoses. If hoses start to get a little crack in them, you can put the self-sealing tape. It stretches and it kind of seals itself onto there really, really tight. A bit of fencing wire. Don't need a super heavy grade, but this thing, sometimes you need to tie things up with wire. So that's what's inside the keeping it all together bag. Folding stools, also good for reaching higher places around the joint. I know a lot of people carry things like a power pack, a big unit, EcoFlow or Jackery or Blue Eddy. There's quite a few different ones. We don't have the space in here to do that, so that's my Anchor, which is A-N-K-E-R. Yeah, this is basically if we are out of power and we have an emergency, we need to use Starlink, and yeah, this will run Starlink for a little while, long enough to get you out of trouble anyway. It's on 100%, which is good to know. It's been sitting in the cupboard for 2 months and has not lost any power. So I guess one of the things about traveling in Australia that I'm very conscious of is the fact that you can't really get a lot of exercise all the time. If you're having a big driving day, there's a lot of sitting. By the time you get to where you're going, you're tired, you drag the chairs out, make a cup of tea, crack a beer, whatever it is, if you're so inclined. I can't stand the stuff. And that's it. You don't really get a lot of exercise during the day. I just carry resistance bands, and they have little handles on the end. So you can attach those to the nearest tree branch if you can't find a tree, which is quite often a problem in this country. For us, we can loop it around the brush bar up the top of the vehicle and do some pull down things, and you can even use it for legs and things. There's a lot of people scoff at resistance bands like it's not real exercise, but there's quite a lot you can do with them, and the advantage I like is that they don't weigh hardly anything. But this guy rolls up like that, clips together, is portable, you can carry it around with you, and it's got these 3 modules, I guess you would call them, in it. Wash. Splinter probe, they're always fun. Foreign object removal. Best thing about this guy is it can become a splint for your limb. If you have a serious strain or break, or a snake has bitten you, you can roll this thing around the limb and it forms a very solid but comfortable splint. And of course the most important thing to remember about a first aid kit is if it's in your car and you've forgotten to take it with you, it's not going to do you much good. Take the thing with you. When it comes to fishing gear, I like to keep it fairly minimal. I have a couple of 2-piece rods hiding in the back that I can drag out at a moment's notice, plus a hand line. I've got barramundi and tuna and all sorts of things on hand lines, folks. A lot of parts of South America and even Northern Australia, the Aboriginal people will just have one of these. That's all I have, and they catch heaps of good stuff. Filleting gloves, not a bad idea. It's kind of a big bum bag that goes around, actually around the front of me when I'm kayaking, so I can paddle along and just reach in and get different things and do what I need to do with fishing. Assorted lures, odds and ends, this and that, hooks and sinkers, kayaking gloves, something you put around your neck to keep the sun from burning a cancerous hole in your neck, soft plastics, bits of line, a bit of braid, a bit of monofilament, a couple of small knives, one of those to rip the hooks out of the fish's mouth. I came to appreciate a good set of long neck pliers when I was in Guyana in South America, because we catch a lot of black piranhas, and black piranhas are like the biggest species of piranha down there. They're huge, and the teeth are sharp. So you need at least this long of a set of pliers to keep your fingers all intact. If you're going to some place where there are fishing charters, they usually supply what you need, so you don't have to bring, your own gear. Just take the minimum. Don't go crazy. You can get. I've seen tackle boxes that are like heavier than a person, man. You don't need all that junk. You really don't. Get yourself some sort of insulated window covers that you can suction cup on the inside, because they work a treat for insulation, for privacy. This is a nice bit of kit that you might be interested in. I don't see a lot of people talk about these. This is a thermometer. Fridge temperature, it's 3.4 Celsius. There's another little gizmo inside the fridge that stays in there, and then you just have this to tell you how warm things are getting inside and outside of your fridge. We like to keep our fridge between about 1 and 4 degrees Celsius. When you first buy your vehicle, go around and measure all the little spaces in the cupboards and see what fits where, and then you can buy your individual baskets and different things. Containers, collapsible containers are quite a good idea as well. So this used to be totally full of oatmeal, and now if we wanted to, we can squish that down and voila, it takes up less space. Containers like this are made with really good snap sort of fittings to keep the lid in place, but when you're talking about things like jars of peanut butter and this sort of thing, it doesn't hurt to put a bit of extra tape maybe around that or about that, or think about the worst case scenario of really bad corrugated roads and inclines like that, and what it's going to do to the inside of your cupboards, and adjust accordingly as far as the security of all the bits and pieces that are in there. So when you're buying stuff for your long trip around Australia, just buy what you need. Don't buy extras of everything just in case. There's 2 of us, so we have 2 cups and 2 bowls and 2 plates and 2 forks and 2 knives, and we don't have extra stuff. There are a lot of pretty cool products you can find to make your life easier. I love this thing. This is your potato masher, but it's flat. Flip it open like so, and then you slide this guy up the top and lock that in place. You can mash away to your heart's content, my friends. if you're in an area where there's lots of trees around and you can't really park anywhere else, you need to drag the big long 15-meter, I think it is, cable out for Starlink and put it in as open an area as you can find. But 9 times out of 10, I use a 3-meter lead and it works fine. The Starlink Mini fits into this little bag. This one's called an Oz Trail Cape series, I think. It packs down in half a minute and gets put away. And you can adjust the back to lean back as much or as little as you wish. It's the front runner table. We do use mats. This is a small one. But we have one that's about 4 times that size. There's a bit of room behind the seats for heavy stuff, you know, a shovel and some of that sort of heavier gear that you don't really want sitting on your rear axle. Plain old ordinary Hilux 2.8 diesel, running like a champ. Get yourself a set of tiny screwdrivers, because it's amazing when you start fiddling around with a Toyota, especially, how many of the screwdriver requirements are pretty tiny. I just carry basic filters, spares, oil filter, fuel filter, and I've got an air filter spare up there. This is just a little tent light. You do that. It's pretty good. It's a very handy thing to have if you want to keep the bugs away from your vehicle, like you're cooking outside. Have a yellow light around your vehicle and have a white light somewhere else a little distance away to distract them all, so they all go over there toward this rather than hanging around your earlobes. Microfiber towels. Gets messy out here, people. You gotta clean stuff up. Tire kit. When you get a flat, and maybe it's not too bad of a flat, it's not totally shredded, and you think optimistically that you can repair it yourself. Quite often, you can. So this is a Bushranger makes these. Are the same people that make my Max Air 3 air compressor. Some little rubbery things that get crammed into the hole in your tire, and there's plenty of YouTube videos on how to use a tire repair kit. You basically have a reaming tool. It looks like a fine self-defense weapon as well. Crikey. Yeah, this thing. So that goes into your tire, makes kind of a bigger hole, a smoother hole, and then you get this guy and one of these little things goes in there, and then essential bit of gear if you're going into the outback to serious places. You got to be able to repair small cuts and punctures in your tires. Now, every time I go around Australia, if there's any chance there's going to be a lake or a river or a pond or a rivulet, I will have my pack raft with me. And the thing to inflate it, and the bag it comes in, and the repair kit, and all the other bits and pieces, including the paddles, of course. And the old vice grips has a habit of just flipping open inside your tool storage container. Just get a rubber band. Chuck it on the end. And it will stop doing that forever. It made me so happy when I discovered this simple life hack. Yeah, see? That's all you gotta do.